What happens when Hollywood's dazzling glamour collides with secrets too heavy to stay hidden? For decades, the entertainment industry has worked overtime to polish its image. Red carpets, perfect smiles, flawless trophies, while keeping certain truths buried deep in the shadows. But in 2025, those whispers are no longer whispers. They've exploded into headlines that no studio, no publicist, and no carefully crafted image could contain. Behind the glittering facade, there are stories of courage, chaos, and controversy. Stories that remind us that even the brightest stars carry burdens too real to ignore. And when those truths finally surface, they don't just change lives, they shake the entire world of fame and power. Tonight, we're diving into the scandals that Hollywood never wanted you to hear. From Olympic champions who risked everything to speak their truth, to rising actors whose careers were defined as much by viral controversies as by talent, these revelations prove one thing: authenticity always comes at a price. So, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. We want to see how far the rainbow spotlight shines tonight. Ready? Let's count down the shocking gay secrets Hollywood tried to bury. Gus Kenworthy, the Olympic hero who hid his truth. Until it shook the world on the surface, Gus Kenworthy was the perfect picture of the American dream. Handsome, fearless, and a freestyle skiing prodigy, he soared into the spotlight with tricks most athletes couldn't even imagine landing. He wasn't just winning medals. He was winning hearts. The Olympics adored him. The media plastered him across magazine covers. Fans looked up to him as the very embodiment of masculinity, discipline, and success. But behind those bright smiles and breathtaking runs was a secret heavy enough to crush even the strongest competitor. When Gus competed in the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics, the world was already watching Russia for its harsh anti-gay laws. Athletes were told to stay quiet, avoid controversy, and never wave the rainbow flag. Gus played the role he was expected to play, smiling for cameras, claiming his silver medal, and letting the world believe he was just another straight sports hero. But in private, he was carrying the weight of fear. Fear of losing endorsements, of letting down fans, of being erased before his career had even begun. He was living two lives: the public champion admired by millions, and the private man who couldn't tell the truth about who he loved. For nearly a year after Sochi, that silence ate away at him. Victory felt hollow because he couldn't celebrate it as his authentic self. But in 2015, Gus made a decision that would change everything. In an ESPN interview that sent shockwaves through the sports world, he came out as gay. For some, it was an act of courage that finally gave young queer athletes someone to look up to. For others, it was too little, too late. Critics accused him of betraying the LGBTQ+ community by staying silent when his voice could have been the loudest protest against Russia's discrimination. And yet, Gus never shied away from the fallout. Sponsorships wavered, trolls flooded his socials, conservative outlets slammed him, but he stood tall. He admitted that hiding nearly destroyed him, that even an Olympic medal meant nothing if he couldn't live truthfully. So here's the question: was his silence in Sochi an act of survival or a missed chance to spark change? And does one kiss on live TV make up for years of hiding? Tom Daley, the golden boy, diver who turned love into scandal and strength. Few athletes have captivated the world quite like Tom Daley. With his boyish charm and flawless dives, he became Britain's golden boy almost overnight. At just 14, he leapt onto the Olympic stage, dazzling audiences with talent well beyond his years. Cameras adored him, magazines couldn't get enough, and a nation crowned him the future of diving. On the surface, Tom seemed untouchable, but beneath the medals and interviews, he carried a secret that threatened to unravel everything. For years, Tom lived in silence. In the hyper-masculine world of competitive sports, being gay wasn't just risky, It was considered a liability, something that could derail a career before it even began. He trained relentlessly, smiled through press tours, and let tabloids speculate endlessly about girlfriends and crushes. All the while, he carried the fear that the truth would end the story before it had barely started. That changed in 2013 when Tom shocked the world with a YouTube video that would define his career as much as any gold medal. With a nervous smile, he told his fans, "Of course, I still fancy girls, but I've met someone who makes me feel so happy, and that someone is a guy." The internet exploded. For millions, Tom became a hero overnight, but not everyone celebrated. Traditional media questioned his timing. Critics accused him of hedging his bets by not declaring himself fully gay. Sponsors whispered about distractions and risks. Suddenly, Tom wasn't just a diver. He was a symbol, a target, and a controversy rolled into one. Then came the love story that fueled even more headlines. Tom fell for Dustin Lance Black, an Oscar-winning screenwriter 2 decades his senior. The pairing sparked endless tabloid speculation. Was it real love or exploitation? Was the age gap a red flag or just proof that love doesn't care about numbers? The scrutiny was relentless, but Tom refused to hide. By the time he won gold in Tokyo 2020, cameras caught him in a moment that melted hearts worldwide, sitting in the stands, knitting quietly between events. That simple image of a gay Olympic champion with yarn in his hands went viral, turning him into a cultural icon far beyond sport. But the question lingers. Did Tom Daley's love and honesty liberate him, or did it tether him to a lifetime of scrutiny? Connor Jessup, the rising star, who waited too long or just in time. Hollywood has always had a complicated relationship with truth. Some stars burst onto the scene ready to live out loud, while others hide behind red carpet smiles and scripted interviews. For Canadian actor Connor Jessup, the struggle wasn't explosive. It was quiet, lonely, and deeply personal. Connor first caught the world's attention as a teenager in the sci-fi series Falling Skies. Later, he cemented his reputation with Netflix's supernatural hit, Lock and Key. With sharp features, soulful eyes, and a boy-next-door charm, he quickly became a fan favorite. On screen, he played brave, vulnerable characters. Off-screen, he was living with a secret he didn't know how to share. By his own admission, Connor's teenage years and early 20s were marked by suffocating shame. He smiled in interviews, played straight roles, and let everyone assume he was just like the characters he portrayed. Behind closed doors, he battled the crushing fear of being found out. Agents warned him that being openly gay could cost him roles. Friends suggested he keep his private life off the record. And so he did, crafting a polished facade while burying his authentic self. That silence nearly destroyed him. But in 2019, on his 25th birthday, Connor finally broke free. In a heartfelt Instagram post, he confessed the truth. He was gay, and he regretted wasting so much time hiding. His words weren't polished PR spin. They were raw, vulnerable, and painfully human. The post went viral, reaching fans around the world. Suddenly, Connor became a reluctant role model, a beacon for young queer fans who saw their own fears reflected in his confession. But Hollywood is never simple. With praise came backlash. Critics asked why he waited until after his career had momentum. Some speculated the timing was tied to the premiere of Lock and Key. Was his coming out brave or calculated? The debate cut deep, exposing the cruel paradox of queer stardom. Come out too soon and risk everything, or wait too long and be accused of cowardice. Connor Jessup chose his own timing, and for that, he gained both admiration and criticism. The question is, was his late confession a betrayal of representation or a reminder that no one owes the world their truth until they're ready? Ben Platt, the Broadway prodigy, caught between authenticity and privilege. Broadway has always been a stage for big voices and even bigger stories, but few performers have ever carried the kind of raw intensity that Ben Platt brought to the theater. As the lead in Dear Evan Hansen, he didn't just act. He lived every note, every tear, every shaky breath. Night after night, audiences sat in the dark and wept, convinced they were watching a once-in-a-generation talent. Hollywood took notice, and suddenly Ben Platt was everywhere. Movies, music, interviews, red carpets. For a while, it seemed nothing could slow him down. But in Hollywood, fame comes with scrutiny. As his star rose, whispers began to circulate, not about his talent, but about the privilege behind it. Ben had come out as gay relatively early, and for that, he was praised as a voice for representation in an industry still short on queer icons. He spoke openly about love, heartbreak, and the joy of finally being himself. For many, his visibility was inspiring. Yet behind the applause, questions lingered. Was Ben's rise purely about talent, or was it also fueled by connections? After all, his father, Mark Platt, is one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood, with credits like La La Land and Wicked. Critics began to frame Ben's openness not as bravery, but as branding, a way to package a nepo baby as relatable. His sexuality, some argued, became part of the marketing strategy. Ben didn't back down. Instead, he leaned further into his identity. He released love songs unapologetically dedicated to men. He pushed back in interviews, insisting that authenticity mattered more than cynicism. He embraced the spotlight, even as the shadow of nepotism followed him everywhere he went. And yet the debate persists. Is Ben Platt the brave queer artist who brought new honesty to Broadway and beyond? Or is he a privileged insider whose path was smoothed long before he ever stepped on stage? His story is complicated, both a symbol of representation and a reminder of the machinery that shapes Hollywood careers. The truth may be that Ben Platt is all of it at once: talented, vulnerable, authentic, and yes, privileged. The question is whether history will remember him for his artistry or for the controversy that clung to his rise. Lucas Gage, the viral audition, the sex scenes, and the scandal that made him famous in Hollywood, it takes just one moment to flip a career upside down. And for Lucas Gage, that moment came before he had even become a household name. Young, magnetic, and undeniably charismatic, Lucas seemed destined for stardom. He was already turning heads with roles in Euphoria and The White Lotus, where his daring performances blurred the line between art and raw provocation. But his real breakthrough didn't come from a script. It came from a scandal. In 2020, a video from one of his auditions went viral. In the clip, a director, forgetting his mic was still on, mocked Lucas's tiny apartment in the middle of his performance. Without missing a beat, Lucas clapped back, exposing not only the director's arrogance, but also the struggles of countless young actors trying to make it in Hollywood. Overnight, the internet rallied around him. Lucas became a symbol of resilience against elitism, proof that talent mattered more than square footage. But the viral fame came with a twist. He was suddenly known more for a scandal than for his craft. Then came the roles that cemented his reputation as Hollywood's new bad boy. In Euphoria, his explicit sex scenes sparked fierce debates about how far television could go. In The White Lotus, his character's steamy encounter in a hotel room dominated headlines for weeks. Lucas seemed fearless, unafraid to put himself on the line. Yet the constant sexualization raised a thorny question. Was he controlling the narrative, or was Hollywood exploiting him as eye candy? For Lucas, the scandals were both a curse and a crown. They kept him in the public eye, ensured he was trending, and made him impossible to ignore. But they also overshadowed his craft, leaving some to wonder if he was building a career on talent or on shock value. He embodied the double-edged sword of modern fame, adored and criticized, bold yet vulnerable, authentic yet accused of chasing controversy. So here's the question. Is Lucas Gage the fearless voice of a new queer Hollywood, tearing down the old rules, one viral moment at a time? Or is he just another young star burning too bright, too fast, fated to be remembered more for the scandals than the art? Ricky Martin, the king of Latin pop. Who waited too long to tell the world for more than a decade, Ricky Martin was the very definition of global superstardom. With his electrifying performances, smoldering looks, and infectious hits like Livin' La Vida Loca, he was crowned the king of Latin pop. Women swooned, magazines branded him the ultimate heartthrob, and entire stadiums shook with his energy. On the outside, Ricky Martin had it all: fame, wealth, and the admiration of millions. But behind the music videos and sold-out tours, he was hiding a truth too dangerous for the image his industry had built. For years, questions swirled about Ricky's sexuality. Journalists asked, tabloids speculated, and rumors followed him everywhere. Yet he stayed silent, brushing aside the whispers with carefully rehearsed smiles. Why? Because in the hyper-commercialized world of global pop, being gay was seen not just as risky, it was considered career suicide. His management worried about album sales, endorsements, and a fan base built on the image of a straight idol. The pressure was crushing. But in 2010, everything changed. Ricky Martin broke the silence with a powerful public statement. "I am a fortunate homosexual man. I am very blessed to be who I am." The announcement shocked the world. Fans flooded social media with support, praising his honesty and courage. For many in Latin America, where homophobia remained deeply entrenched, Ricky's revelation was nothing short of groundbreaking. He became a symbol of pride, a pioneer who had finally claimed his truth. And yet, not everyone applauded. Some critics accused him of waiting too long, of hiding behind his fame until his career was secure. They argued that by delaying his coming out, he had denied representation to countless young fans who needed a role model in their most vulnerable years. Others, however, defended him, pointing out the immense risks he faced at the height of his fame. The truth is complicated. Ricky Martin's story is both one of bravery and one of caution. He showed that even the most adored superstar can live with fear, and that stepping into authenticity is never simple. The question remains, should Ricky Martin be remembered as the pop icon who finally brought visibility to Latin music, or as the superstar who could have sparked change far sooner? Elliot Page. From Hollywood darling to transgender trailblazer. Elliot Page grew up in front of the camera. As a child actor in Canadian TV, he was precocious and talented. By the time he starred in Juno, 2007, his quirky, heartfelt performance had made him one of Hollywood's brightest young stars. Roles in Inception and X-Men followed, cementing him as a bankable, in-demand name. On the surface, he was everything Hollywood wanted, a rising actor with charm, talent, and mass appeal. But under that success was a private truth he could no longer ignore. For years, Page carried the weight of secrecy. In 2014, he came out publicly as gay during a human rights campaign speech, confessing that hiding had nearly broken him. The crowd roared in approval, and headlines around the world praised his courage. At the time, many saw it as a turning point, a victory for LGBTQ+ visibility in Hollywood. But even then, his journey wasn't over. The truth was bigger. In 2020, Elliot Page made an announcement that stunned the industry once again. In a deeply personal statement shared online, he came out as transgender. He embraced his true identity, declaring his name as Elliot and his pronouns as he, shall, they. It was more than a confession. It was history. Overnight, Page became the most famous openly trans actor in Hollywood. The impact was seismic. Fans around the world celebrated, calling him a trailblazer who had shattered barriers for millions of trans people seeking visibility. But as always, fame comes with backlash. Support poured in from colleagues and fans, but critics accused Hollywood of turning his identity into PR branding, tokenizing his story to polish its image of progress. Some questioned if the industry was elevating Page for authenticity or exploiting him as proof of inclusivity. The media frenzy around his transition was both empowering and suffocating, a reminder of how fame magnifies the personal into a global debate. Through it all, Elliot Page has remained open, honest, and unwavering. He's spoken candidly about the pain of living a lie, about the relief of finally being himself, and about the importance of fighting for others who don't have the same platform. The question is, will Elliot Page be remembered as Hollywood's most authentic icon of bravery, or as another example of how an industry can exploit even the deepest truths for its own narrative? Sam Smith, the voice that broke records and then broke boundaries. When Sam Smith's haunting ballad Stay With Me swept the globe in 2014, their voice seemed to come from another world, aching, soulful, unforgettable. Almost overnight, Sam went from a little-known British singer to one of the most recognizable artists on the planet. Grammys, hit singles, sold-out arenas. Success came fast and loud. But behind the chart-topping records and standing ovations was a personal truth that would prove just as groundbreaking as the music itself. That same year, Sam came out as gay, earning praise for their openness in an industry still riddled with silence. For many fans, Sam's visibility was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that queer voices belonged on the biggest stages. But their journey didn't stop there. In 2019, Sam revealed another truth. They identify as non-binary, choosing they, them pronouns. It was a simple declaration, but one that sent shockwaves far beyond the world of pop. Supporters applauded the honesty. They saw Sam's choice as revolutionary, especially for young queer people searching for representation. Sam used interviews and music videos to express their identity unapologetically, often embracing bold, gender-fluid fashion that challenged every expectation of what a global superstar should look like. But the backlash was brutal. Conservative commentators mocked them, tabloids published sneering headlines, and online trolls filled their socials with hate. Some critics accused Sam of using identity as marketing, arguing that the timing of their announcements coincided conveniently with new album cycles. Others said their public transformation was more spectacle than sincerity. Sam never backed down. Instead, they doubled down on authenticity. From releasing the provocative duet Unholy to walking red carpets in daring, boundary-pushing outfits, Sam embraced a role as both artist and lightning rod. They refused to conform, even as the criticism grew louder. And yet the paradox remains. Is Sam Smith a fearless pioneer, using their platform to redefine pop stardom for a new generation? Or are they a superstar whose art risks being overshadowed by the controversy that follows their every move? The truth may be both. Sam Smith is not just a voice that broke records. They are a voice that challenged the world to hear something new, something uncomfortable, and something undeniably real. Lil Nas X, the rap star who turned controversy into a revolution. In 2019, a little-known rapper named Montero Lamar Hill, better known as Lil Nas X, changed music forever with a song that blended country twang and hip-hop swagger. Old Town Road became the longest-running #1 hit in Billboard history, turning a teenager from Atlanta into a global superstar. He was young, witty, and unstoppable. But just as the world was getting used to his cowboy hats and meme-worthy charm, he dropped a truth that would shake the foundations of one of the most homophobic industries in entertainment. At the height of his fame, Lil Nas X came out as gay. He did it publicly, unapologetically, and without warning. For rap and country audiences, two worlds where masculinity and heteronormativity dominate, it was nothing short of revolutionary. Some fans hailed him as a trailblazer, the first openly gay superstar in hip-hop, an industry where queerness had long been hidden in whispers. But others weren't ready. Critics accused him of using his sexuality as a stunt, of trying to shock his way into relevance. Conservative backlash came fast and furious. Lil Nas X didn't flinch. Instead, he pushed further. His music videos became statements, not just songs. In Montero, Call Me By Your Name, he danced with the devil and slid into hell, unapologetically celebrating queer desire. The video sparked outrage from politicians, religious leaders, and pundits. But it also cemented him as one of the most fearless voices of his generation. Then came the infamous Satan shoes, custom sneakers allegedly containing a drop of human blood. Nike sued, conservatives screamed, and Lil Nas X laughed all the way to the charts. Every scandal seemed to fuel him. With each backlash, his fan base only grew louder, prouder, and more loyal. He turned controversy into a weapon, using it to expose the hypocrisy of an industry that had always marketed rebellion. But never this kind of rebellion. Yet the question lingers. Is Lil Nas X a fearless pioneer rewriting the rules of rap, or is he a marketing genius who thrives on scandal to keep his name trending? Maybe he's both. What's undeniable is this. He opened doors that had long been locked, and in doing so, forced the world to reconsider what a rap superstar could look like. Jodie Foster, the Hollywood prodigy who waited a lifetime to speak her truth. Few stars have grown up as completely in front of the camera as Jodie Foster. From a child actress in Taxi Driver to an Oscar-winning powerhouse in The Silence of the Lambs, she became one of Hollywood's most respected talents. Intelligent, private, and fiercely protective of her craft, Foster built a career that seemed untouchable. But while audiences admired her brilliance, the press hounded her for something she never said out loud: her truth. For decades, rumors about Jodie Foster's sexuality swirled in tabloids and whispered at industry parties. She attended premieres with women, raised children with her longtime partner, but refused to give the press the confession they demanded. She kept her private life off limits, dismissing invasive questions with grace and steel. For many fans, her silence was a disappointment. For Foster, it was survival in a Hollywood still deeply hostile to openly queer actors. Then, in 2013, she stunned the world. Accepting the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globes, Foster delivered a speech that was part career retrospective, part cryptic confession, and part liberation. She thanked her partner, referred to her family, and declared with wry humor that she had already come out years ago to those who mattered. It wasn't a flashy announcement. It was a quiet, deliberate reclaiming of her narrative. The reaction was instant. Some celebrated her bravery, seeing it as a long overdue acknowledgement from one of Hollywood's greats. Others criticized her timing, arguing she had waited too long, that her silence during her peak years denied representation to countless queer people who could have benefited from her visibility. The debate was sharp. Was she protecting her privacy or protecting her career? Foster herself remained unapologetic. She insisted she had always been true to herself, even if she refused to let the tabloids dictate when or how she spoke. And in the years since, she has continued to thrive as an actor and director, her legacy defined not by scandal, but by mastery. The question lingers, though. Will history remember Jodie Foster as a legend who finally claimed her truth on her own terms, or as a star who let fear delay her place in the fight for representation? Hollywood loves to sell us perfection. Polished red carpets, flawless smiles, and stories that seem bigger than life itself. But behind every headline and every scandal we've uncovered tonight lies something far more real. The human struggle to live authentically in a world that doesn't always make it easy. Gus Kenworthy, Tom Daley, Connor Jessup, Ben Platt, Lucas Gage, Ricky Martin, Elliot Page, Sam Smith, Lil Nas X, and Jodie Foster all remind us of the same lesson. Truth is never simple, and it always comes at a price. Some chose to speak early, some waited until it nearly broke them, and others spoke only when they could no longer stay silent. None of their journeys were perfect, but each of them proved that authenticity, even when messy and controversial, carries more power than any carefully curated image. The real lesson for us isn't about scandal, it's about courage. It's about the strength to choose honesty in a world that often rewards silence. And it's about remembering that the stars we admire are not just entertainers. They're people, facing the same fears and hopes we do. So maybe the greatest secret Hollywood has ever exposed is that authenticity will always outshine perfection.